Switch in. And here we are. And yep, it's definitely going to be arena. We are already seeing the walls in here. So let's just another Fog of War, as it's going to be literally useless on this part of the map. Oh yeah, we are seeing quite funny spawns. We are looking at blue being in a position that he's basically having just one way inside his base, and taking one at that, you can see all those stragglers and such. That's actually quite nice natural wall-in for him. It's not half bad. The same is going to be true for G-Man's team, who is his teammate. Going to be a bit more effective for him to potentially switch through wall here. And same is going to be true for Stsn Buddy, who is probably going to be having a bit safer game this time around than he had on the islands. And might be happy about it, but he's going to be in the pocket, which of course, or is he actually? No, he isn't. He's yet again going to be on the flank, and he is right now already under attack by his opponent Akeno, who was also on the flank, but on the other side of the map, of course, so it doesn't really matter. And this is kind of tricky positioning of the stone, of course. Not only is it in basically the gate, but much more importantly than that, it's very close to the wall, of course. So if, for example, Barry drops a castle about here, yeah, well, goodbye stone, of course. That's not really good news for him. Second stone is pretty much fine, so in the end it's not that much of a problem. Both boars are inside, deer as well, so that's pretty much alright map, but he needs to be careful about the gold, because both of the gold mines are next to the wall, and since the map looks like this, he cannot really use the help from his teammate G-Man streams to build some kind of creative wall-in. And this might be actually making for a very tough game in late game, because if this goes late, they will have to somehow manufacture a trade route from, for example, about here, and the wall all the way to the top, to the yellow player. This is actually kind of sucky for them, if you think about the trade route. This is going to be really tough for them to make a trade, unless they want to go for some kind of landscaping with onagers and such into the back of their bases. This is really not good spawn. They should be working on walling as soon as possible this part of the map, because otherwise they are going to be risking that the late game is going to be very tough for them. Yeah, good sheep. Keeping the gate open. Good girl. And that's definitely going to be needed, because he's having both wars on the left. Are these actually both of his? Yeah, they actually are. So that's pretty unlucky spawn for him. He's going to be definitely forced to keep this gate open for much longer. Not only for the second board, but of course for the deer as well. Otherwise, it's going to be slightly easier for him to wall with his teammate than for Akeno with G-Man's teams. He can basically put the wall about from here to here. I would be thinking it's long, but it will be covering both the gold and stone. It will be some kind of basis for the trade route later on, because they definitely need to think about that, as their opponents don't have any kind of handicap like that. They could just be making a natural wall in between them. It's really looking like that from teal, orange, and purple is going to be like super safe. Purple is Teuton. Yeah, he probably doesn't want to actually sling or some such. It's kind of interesting civilization nonetheless, because they are probably expecting some Aztecs from their opponents and some kind of priest Russian, or yeah, Russian. Priest in Castle Age. So looking at the civilizations, we are looking at Stinsons with Goths, Teutons, Aztecs and Turks. Turks definitely gonna be slunk, I would be thinking. So that's very unfortunate for them that he is in the pocket. But he's not really far away. He's not in a bad pocket position. He's quite close to either Buddy, and of course also to Akeno. That's really not bad at all. So he still could be very reasonably slung to fast Imperial and such, whereas the opponents are having IIDAs, are Saracens, Spanish, Mayans and Mongols. Well, looking at this, I'm not exactly sure what the plan is going to be for IIDAs, considering that it is actually their home map. I'm definitely looking at much better prepared civilizations for Arena from Stinsons, to be honest. And they might be having a bit better plan than IIDAs. I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. And streams right now. Cartography. Thinking that it's going to be something else for him, and they are probably just now communicating what's going to be happening for them. Ah, yeah, there's probably going to be a problem of difference between this game version on Woobly and of HD, because on HD you have free cartography, if I remember correctly. And Stinsons are basically players that are used to playing on HD predominantly, if I remember correctly, and that might be a bit of a surprise for them. It should have been a surprise in the first map, of course, on Islands, so I'm not sure why he would be surprised now, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to be the point for that, or what is it, maybe some kind of team bonus? I don't really think so. I don't remember any civilizations having free cartography in the normal game. But maybe I'm just making a fool of myself, doesn't really matter at all, as I'm right now looking at the Turk, of course, having pretty nice gold at the back of his base, otherwise stone in the front. That's kinda usual. And where are the other mines? Outside of his base, but since the position is quite alright between him and his teammates, it doesn't seem to be all that much of a problem, especially because of the very nice patch of trees. And the second one, oh, that's a lot of gold. That's actually very sweet. That's very sweet for him, and this might be making... I'm kinda looking at Stinsons right now, if they are going to be getting greedy. Because looking at the map layout, he might be wanting to build a wall here. And somehow here, to capture all those gold mines, if he's super greedy. In my mind, it doesn't make any sense, because it would be very hard for him to manage and such, so he should be less greedy. And concentrate, for example, on a wall from about here. And here, basically make it just simple. There are already all that many gold mines in here and stone mines as well, so it will be much more suitable for what they are probably going to be attempting to do, slinging into the Turk. So they need to be really choosing well where to be greedy and where not, and I don't really think that getting all the gold mines in the middle would be all that advisable for them. In the meantime, Buddy is having pretty safe gold mine at the bottom, second one also. Kind of funny map, having some extra clearing into the back of the base, which definitely is going to help, because sometimes when you are spawned this way, that you are having just one way away from your base, you might be facing a problem of not having enough space in your base, which could be exactly the case for Grey if you have a look at this. He doesn't have really a big space in his base, and once he starts going for the farms, which are miles, he definitely will be pretty soon, going to be really getting lower and lower and lower, and really he will need to think about somehow going a bit further from his base, but so far he doesn't seem to be doing that, and yeah, that might be coming back to bite him. And definitely Blue needs to be careful about the walls, because he's already thinking he doesn't need this. I'll be thinking they might be actually extending the wall from this point. And his home base seems to be slightly larger than what Grey is having. He's having at least this patch to the right with extra gold and a wolf, just for the fun. But really, right now he's letting the purple guy in. Fortunately, wasn't able to wall fast enough, and he needs to be careful. He didn't really want to be caught in that. Not exactly sure if it actually wouldn't be an advantage. You probably would be killed at any rate, but he actually could have had a look on his teammate, how his villages are actually positioned, what it could mean for him, what kind of strategy they are going for. But yeah, that's definitely not happening, and the castle villages are trickling in from 5 players so far. Coinage from the west side, so that's going to be a slinger. And as an Aztec, curious indeed. What we may be expecting that he will be going actually for the monks on arena, which could be some kind of idea for him, but that probably is not going to be coming into play. So I'm definitely curious if he's really going to be all in into the Turk, who is right now already having a bit of a look at green, and he seems to be quite close on the fight in here. Maybe could have won, but with the help, he definitely will. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a cooperation between Buddy and T-West, and possibly if they can yet again catch Akenos Scout, he's definitely gonna be pushing the daisies pretty soon. Also a bit of scouting right now by both Grey and Blue, so that they have a look how's it looking for Purple. And Purple is right now working on basically securing the walls for himself, so he's definitely slinging. Definitely going to be slinging as well, so probably double sling the castle age, so kinda interesting. Let's see what it's going to result, but all those houses definitely looks like, and the second wall, that definitely should be a sling from him. But probably going for a bit more economy first in the castle age, and then he's going to be slinging. Maybe the experts in the chat, like Bullet, will know a bit more, or LB10, I have noticed you in there a bit before. So you can definitely right now tell us what do you think is going to be happening from both of these teams. As we are looking at, of course, The Saracens so far going quite alright, gathering a lot of stone for the castles I would be expecting. First is going to be town center, but castles of course are going to be needed pretty soon for all the Mamelukes that are, of course, a pretty strong unit of that civilization. So let's check the achievements, how this link is going on. So west side into T-West, exactly. Yeah, both guys from the west coast. Going for it, as castle is actually surprisingly defensible. Surprisingly defensive. I would be thinking that with the sling into T-West as the Turk, I would be thinking they would be slightly more adventurous and trying to basically secure this part of the map, exactly because of the gold. And since they do have the scouts, they definitely can have a look what their opponents are doing. And since the opponent is Spanish, you could be thinking that he would be dropping a fast castle for some raiding with conquistadors, but it's definitely not happening for him. And well, they could have been adventurous, but they chose the safe route. They are going to be waiting for the power spike in the Imperial Age from the west. A lot of stone being gathered. Oh, that's going to be a bit more castles coming up. Probably soon for them, as he's still at one town center, not really going for much more, but he doesn't really need it all that much. He's going to be the one that should be continuing with hand cannoneers and bombard cannons, I'll be thinking. That's usually how you play it, or how Leo played it last season to a pretty good effect. Cartography coming up, wheelbarrow for body as well. Yeah. Are going to be waiting for the first engagements to happen. So 3 TCs for red. 3 TCs for red. The Teuton is having 3 TCs as well, as far as I can see. Just continuing on, making sure that he's as secure as possible. They are not really walling at all, and same can be basically set for their opponents. So really, they are hoping that they can kill their opponents in fair fight, because once they run out of gold, serious situations are going to be happening. So of course this is going to be continued sling by the Aztec. As on the top side, first castle being dropped, as he's continuing with building economy of 1, 2, 3 town centers for the Saracen. For the blue player, who is playing as Mongol, that's 1, 2, 3 as well. Wouldn't be surprised by a 4th, to be honest. He's in the bucket in safe position, so he definitely could afford a full-on boom, but he's thinking it's going to be fine. And finally, confirmation that the Teuton is going to be slinging with coinage. And let's see who is going to be slinging into. Well, of course, it's not going to be west side. 3 TCs for the Mayan on the opposing team. As Janissaries are going to be the unit of choice. That's curious, because they are quite expensive, and even though they are like super strong unit, and once they reach some critical mass, they are like super hard to get rid of. Usually you see the hand cannoneers with the bombard cannons, but so far it's going to be this, and bombard cannons are going to be coming just a bit later. So this is definitely the reason why the extra stone was being gathered, so that he can place a bit more extra castles on top of his opponent. Just a Hussar, of course, upgraded from the Scout for free, otherwise not much happening in here, and it's going to be Barracks. And is he going to be switching into the hand cannoneers in the end? Well, we're probably going to see pretty soon, as Hussars are getting ready from the Goth, of course with the petards, so it's going to be basically a blitz into Green's base pretty soon, but he's already getting ready, but I'm not sure if he's fast enough. I'm actually fairly certain he's going to be slow. Going to be too slow. Let's check the achievements for the sling yet again. So, Peter Pan slinging into body, that makes sense. And the west side into the west. Alright, so that's going to be pretty nasty for IIDAs, because you can see they are not slinging at all, and they are not prepared for it. Like, no way they are going to be prepared for anything that is coming for them. Still just peacefully going about the farming and gathering of the gold and such. 4th TC for the Mongol, exactly as expected that it would be a good idea. But, yeah. The base is breached. Janissaries are coming in, and all the siege are going to be trickling in as well. So this is going to be pretty nasty combo. Those Hussars together with, of course, the Janissaries. Not exactly sure what the Spanish player could be doing against that. Of course, Paladins would be great, but for that he needs the Imperial Age, to which he is advancing now. So he's having a pretty decent army, or rather economy, but really it's not going to be enough, because he's probably not going to receive any kind of help from his teammates. From Grey, yeah, definitely not. From Blue, just now setting up, but he's going to be way too late, it seems like, even though he does have 82 villagers, which is the most, but just by 3. above Peter Pan. Yeah, well, this is really looking quite well right now for Stsn, and they really are poised to take the game on the home wave of their opponents, nonetheless. Or rather, no less, that's the correct English pronounce, or rather, idiom, right? Really, those knights are not going to be good enough because, as I said a bit earlier, Janissaries are definitely good against them. They can take them down once they are in pretty good numbers, and they definitely are in them, especially with the hand cannoneers right now being the unit of choice. Going to be stealing the gold on top of the archer ranges right now, right next to the opponent's base. And of course, even though the extra walling is attempted to be built, part of it is already done. This is going to be really a run for the Imperial Age and the Cavaliers at least. And if they can somehow stall this attack long enough, they might be able to succeed. But it's going to be really tricky, really quite tricky, especially when we consider that Buddy is not helping them fully. Rather helping his teammate fully on the left, but he's much more concentrated into the middle, dropping the barracks, and he's probably going to be flooding into the Stsn and trying to put him out of the game. Or maybe it's just some kind of precaution, and might be even switching into the Mongol, which might be a better choice because the Mongol boomed might be getting a bit trickier. And looking at the score, I really would be worried more about the Mongol than about the yellow player, because there is difference in the score is 300, which should be signaling that the economy of the Mongol is much better than of IIDA. And we are seeing a sling right now coming from IIDAS as well, finally. So they are learning right now that it would be a pretty good idea for him. For that, west side, of course, Peter Pan, Mars sending into Buddy, or rather into Buddy not, to somewhere else. So yeah, slinging going on all around the map. So let's go back to the battle, as it's looking that the castle is down, and then this gold is definitely not gonna go all right for them. And since they are wide open on this side, and finally, Human's teams is going to be helping him. Those, oh yeah, those plumed archers actually, if they get upgrades fast enough, Imperial coming in and play Pettit Archer armor as well, they could be good enough against those guys. But yet again, it's going to be all about the numbers, and since the numbers are growing and not diminishing at all for T-West, well, this might be a bit more than IIDAS might be able to handle. In the meantime, we are going to be seeing the breach of the army, of the red army into the yellow's base quite successfully. So, oh, nicely played by IIDA. Just at the last moment, getting some hits into the castle, or rather into the house, but he cannot allow more units in. But it doesn't really matter all that much, because he can build just a few Mamelukes, and that's not a good defense against elite Huscarls with basically pretty nice upgrades already. +2 into the armor, +1 into the attack, so still a lot to go. But yet again, not really all that great for him. Twist coming in for IIDA, so he's going to be switching into hand cannoneers, which is interesting choice against Huscarls, especially in the mass, so not exactly sure what the idea is going to be here for them. In the meantime, pretty decent amount of Cavaliers already amassed for Akhenaten, so he's attempting to take down all the Janissaries, not really Conquistadors. Conquistadors do have the horses on them, or rather below them. And the hand cannoneers replacing the Janissaries are just doing a pretty good job, but they will probably need some support from the red. And red should be sending something in here, like he can quite easily make halberdiers, of course, as a Goth. And that should be definitely happening. He needs just a few of them. Just task like 1-2 barracks to produce halberdiers into this position. You'll be basically impenetrable, because the hand cannoneers, as you can see, are able to deal even with the Cavaliers. But with the few halberdiers, that would be just it. And there will be like no chance for the IIDAS to deal with this. We see a switch from not only the right, rather he's going to be not abusing just the right yellow player IIDA, he's going to be coming into the pocket as well. He's probably going to be just attempting to stall King Marv so that he cannot develop all that well. Oh, we are going to be seeing two-handed swordsman fighting against the Huscarls in here. Well, that's an interesting choice, of course, but makes sense, because otherwise King Marv cannot do all that much as a Mongol, as Mangurais wouldn't be like good at all against those dudes, especially since he cannot get the numbers up soon enough. And well, it's going to be quite a fight for him. Just hoping that he can get a pretty decent number before The numbers from red get too critical, but I'm not all that certain that he can, because you can see the flood of units is like quite brutal from the Ghost player, and it's looking like that King Marv, even with the champions, is not going to be able to help fast enough. In the meantime, G-Man's team is right now arriving at the battlefield at the bottom, in Akeno's base with the plumed archers, but unfortunately he's getting, oh, absolutely hammered. He's getting toasted amongst all those Huskarls, and rather, and Cannoneers, and Huskarls, they are going to be toasting them quite soon as well. They're going to be having barbecue all around. This is really pretty tough, and he needs to be managing his army a whole lot better, and much more than that, he needs to be cooperating with Akeno. Once he has some kind of paladins, well, probably not paladins, probably doesn't have the economy for that, and even sling. He's the cavaliers, he needs to somehow coordinate with his great teammate. In the meantime, Huskarls as the reinforcements coming in, probably going to be slaughtering a lot of units in here, as they were already at the top. And town center being built by Akeno, a lot of castles being done, 4 of them. That's not half bad defense, but against the Huskarls might just not be enough. Let us see. Then of course the Turk is doing a pretty good job controlling the situation, and are there actually any trapped villages? Yes, they are, a lot of them. A quite serious number, and he has absolutely no way to actually escape. That's exactly the danger of bases spawned like this, where you have basically just one escape route from this position. So Yellow has already lost the soul castle that he was having, even though he's definitely not giving up. Even though he's under attack by the Huskarls, he's still continuing as if nothing happened with the 4th town center, trying to work on establishing the walls yet again. He's even repairing them, but that's that's really taking a long time. I would be just deleting it and building a new one. Not exactly sure if it is even efficient on resources, but since repairing is basically costing percentages, I think so. It'll be alright, but it definitely isn't effective on time. But we are looking right now that King Marv is already having the champions, and how many upgrades? Just +2 on the armor, nothing on the attack, but there are some natural choke points, and they are just basically right now waiting in there in line. That's kind of funny. Just waiting for their time against the opponent and the raiding party. From the red guy, who is having +2 into the defense, also +1 into the attack, so definitely lacking upgrades. And Peter Pan probably switching off the slinging as he's coming into Imperial Age, into Bloodlines, chain bar in armor, so you can guess these are going to be horses coming in from the Teuton, which definitely makes pretty good sense. So this is going to be pretty much breached base from King Marv. He's going to be in the same situation as on the right side Idefix, even though Idefix has been able to patch the wall, finally. Almost finished the poor guy with repairing the wall. Last Huskarl dead. No. Last dead. With the hand cannoneers getting bigger in numbers. And that might be just good enough for him in here. Whereas the blue base is of course quite tough. And a quite tough attack, and it doesn't seem like that those champions are doing good enough job, but let's not be too hasty. And let's have a look on the left, where it seems like that actually Stsns are right now being forced back, but let's see for how long. Oh, come on, coordination, team coordination from Stsn. Kinda missing in here for a moment, as those Huskarls are going to be facing a pretty good number of plumed archers. Basically, once they are into the elite, they are so effective in the large numbers that you could be basically thinking about them similarly as about those guys, hand cannoneers, and kinda tricky to deal with them even with all the Huskarls. Of course, you are going to be having pretty big advantage, and if you play it correctly, you should be winning without that big a trouble. But again, the archers, if you can get them into some kind of choke point, like behind the, or rather between the houses, or you can build some choke points yourself by your buildings, you can definitely thin them out pretty well. And you might be surprising your opponent with the efficiency in them. Okay, getting rid of all the economy on the left side, as G-Man's team has lost the castle. That's a great player, he has lost a castle in here, and he is being under attack quite trickily by the red player from the right. But that was just a bit of a fun, and he's going to be waiting for Iron Casting for himself, so that he gets some better army. And he needs to be a whole lot more careful, because it seems like that blue was able to defend himself in the end with the champions, and the walls are repaired, right? Yes, they definitely are, and since yellow is right now the one who is yet again facing the brunt of the wrath of the red guys, oh well. he has been losing a lot of economy. He's right now dropped to 61. That's not really ideal. Akeno is at 65 as well. And even though T-Best is just at 49, he doesn't mind all that much because his teammates are at 165, 115 and 98, which is just good enough for anything that they want to do. So even though King Marv is having a bit of a respite, like that Idefix is going to be in for a bit of a tough situation himself, whereas Cavaliers are finally joining the battle on the left, and that's going to be Peter Pan having a bit of fun against all those plumed archers from the Mayan. Yeah, that's a pretty scary army of hand cannoneers right there. All the upgrades into the armor from him. And not only Huskarls coming into the fun, but of course, these guys also, but Akeno is getting paladins. Well, so is he going to be ready for something? He's going to be helped by his teammate inside his base, and he's already making enough army inside his stables. Let's check how much. Oh well, just started. So he will have to rebuild somewhere. He should be already rebuilding somewhere, I don't know. It's kinda tough for him to rebuild anywhere, because exactly they are having the problem of not having any kind of space, for example in the grey base. Or in the blue base for that matter either as well. So yeah, they are going to be probably paying for the fact that they didn't really prepare for the late game with the wall in, and they are right now in pretty tough situation because they cannot even place buildings like anywhere on the map. Potentially could be getting comfortable in Gray's base because he still does have some kind of room in here instead of the dead farms. That's pretty much it. As we are looking on the right, yeah, that's going to be pretty much done deal for the yellow player, but yeah, already seeing that deal was joining the fun as well, switching off from the, or rather, was switching from the left side to the right, but GGs are already being called, and it's going to be a win for Stsn, and the match is going to be 1-1 in the end. So this is kind of surprising, because we will be expecting that since this was the home map from IIDA, they would be having some special strategy, but actually the opposite was true. And special strategy came in for Stsn. They did have the sling into the Turk and into the Goth, and that worked like a charm in here. Really, really well. But it has to be said that IIDAs did have a pretty good chance in there. They were defending quite alright. Quite alright indeed, but just the strength of the combination of the Turks and the Goths on a map like this with a sling, yeah, it's kind of problematic if you are not counting with that all that much. Well then, GG, let's have a check into achievements. Well, Buddy is going to be winning the score in here, with T-West being actually surprisingly far behind, but it's going to be because he was having low economy, so they were both slung. Largest army for Buddy as a Goth, of course. With any kind of surprise unit skilled, it's skilled 430. That's a whole lot. But a lot of those are going to be villages of yellow, of yellow and blue. Units lost also pretty high, of course, as he's producing a lot of units to kill and also to die. Well, GG,